Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tone's Market Analysis for Friday, September 8th. This is a special episode for two reasons. One, we had a huge panic selling in Bitcoin this morning, about 30 seconds after I ended Today in Bitcoin show in the morning. Would have been really interesting if I only started that show a little bit later. Would have turned out completely different. So go over to the World Crypto Network and check out that video from this morning. The other reason is in a few hours, I'm going to be heading off to the airport and I'm flying to Oslo, where I'm going to spend all day tomorrow. After that, I will be heading over to Switzerland, where I'm going to spend at least, I think, about 4 or 5 days. I'm going to be speaking at 3 places in Switzerland, to check that out. You know what? I'll go through it in a minute. So this is going to be a lightning quick edition. I'm going to go do a lightning round on traditional markets so we can immediately get into Bitcoin. So without further ado, there was nothing interesting in the stock market in the last 2 days. We are back in the box. I'm going to, make the box a little bit bigger and by like a millimeter. And we're in the box. Nothing's going on. The counts are broken. S&P 500 is just dying to break out higher. Probably once September comes to an end. October is usually the month where the market bottoms, and then it sets up nice gains into November, December, January, and February. Okay. Earnings season is also coming up in October, and I'll be trading earnings season. Nothing really to see here. Let's close that. Oh, you know what? Let me make this full screen. A little bigger for you guys. Here's the weekly chart. Again, nothing to see here. Same as Wednesday. This is a clean pullback. I like it a lot. We're setting up. Once we break the yellow line, is just like the last time we broke the yellow line. The last time we broke the yellow line was 2,400. We made it all the way to 2,500. And well, did we make it to 2,500? We made it to 2,490. So I'm going to 2,491. So I'll just call it 2,500. We made it to 2,500. And so if we break out again, you're looking for $100 move. So maybe we'll go to 2,600, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, 2,600-ish, something like that, 20, maybe a little lower, right? I don't know, 2580, 2575, something like that. Okay. But I remain bullish, guys. All right, let's move on. Gold, you got to, it's working on a daily reversal candle. It's coming up on another 9 count. Like sooner or later, one of these 9s is going to actually work. So live trading this thing, I would have tried a short, took a little loss. I would have tried a short, took a little loss. And in 2 days, so like Monday or Tuesday, I would be looking to short gold again. And if it works out, you make up for all of those losses trying to go short earlier. We had a 13. We're going to have another 9. You got a reversal candle. I like my reversal candles 8, 9, and the following candle. But hey, market isn't always perfect. That's about it for that. The weekly is grossly overextended. This double top probably won't hold long term, but short term, it can drop prices all the way back down to at least the yellow line, possibly even to retest the breakout trend line. Like, I want to see downside before I see more upside. So I think there will be a short trade here and then probably a long. Maybe I'll be finally convinced that gold has bottomed at 1044. We'll see. Okay, let's move on. Oil looked scary going out of the channel. I said wait till it closes above the moving average, and gold just dropped back. Okay, so I'm sorry, oil just dropped back in the channel, still looking bearish. By the way, the dollar has been going down because the euro has been going up. Once that trend reverses, and I've been waiting for the euro trend to freaking reverse. Once this trend reverses, the dollar will go up, the euro will go down, gold's going to get crushed, silver's going to get crushed. Like I have no confidence in the euro. So here is the Here's the weekly chart of the euro. I don't even think I have the daily up. Yeah, well, that was my trade, and it was profitable for a minute there, and now it looks like, yeah, so it stopped out. It stopped out. Okay. Now we have a 13 again. I just trying to time the short. Like, I think the euro has had a good run. You timed this short correctly, and there's lots of money to be made. And you lose a little bit, lose a little bit, lose a little bit, and then you make a lot. Trading isn't easy. If anyone told you trading was easy, they're lying to you. Okay. So, but at this point, like, there's no short here, right? I mean, the indicator has flipped. It's now, there's a higher chance that it's going to keep going up. It's just grossly overextended at this point. You could go long the euro, or you can just wait for another 9. That's really up to the trader. But pretty much, yeah. Now we have a 13 count going up. Hey, if it's going up, you trade it to the upside. I don't know. I'm still. I'll be in Europe. I'll see what it's like over there. All right, Bitcoin is where I really wanted to get to. We went through the other stuff real quick. All right, you know what? Let me exit full screen. Let me close all of these. Taking up too much space. All right, before we get to the price of Bitcoin, let's talk about the news, okay? This was the article that started the selling, okay? This was the main article that started the selling. And this is translated into English. And it sounds like Chinese government has banned exchanges, but here's the problem. There is no source. There's no sources. And if you go to Twitter, if you go to hashtag Bitcoin, and you look at the top tweets, like here's one from Crypto Squeeze, not really familiar with his work, but here, 1, open an enormous Bitcoin short position. 2, bribe some underpaid reporter to speak fake news about China banning Bitcoin again. Question marks, and then profit. I mean, that was like one of the most popular tweets. Here's BTC China. BTC China exchange is operating normal and has not received any directives from the Chinese regulators. We'll keep you posted. Here's Whale Panda. I mean, China banning. We should ban China from Bitcoin. And here is Samson Mao. Read the article about the shutdown of exchanges in China. They have no sources at all. It's just conjecture, right? And here he is again. Where is he? Here it is. Would you believe news on CNN saying Bitcoin is banned in the US without any statements or sources from the SEC or CFTC or the New York Department of Financial Services, right? So this is basically fake news. Here's Max Kaiser making fun of the situation. There's no credibility there, right? There's no credibility there. Here's that news. I have the link in my video description. This one I really liked. I was just sent this the moment before I was going live. I did not have time to read the details, but this is the official statement from the Chinese government about ICOs. I agree with this 100%. 100%. Okay? All that they're talking about is illicit funding. Here it is. No organization or individual shall engage in illegal fundraising through coin offerings. I agree with this. Okay? Every ICO to me is illegal funding of a company. It's breaking all kinds of laws, and these laws are there for a reason. You may disagree with them, but these laws have been around for a while. On fundraising, there are certain laws you need to follow. When you don't follow these laws, all you have are scams. All you have are people taking other people's money. Okay? This is all China is talking about. Financial institutions and non-bank payment institutions shall not conduct business related to coin offering, fundraising, and trading. This is all ICOs. Even in here, there is a specific statement. Hold on a second. Here it is. The essential attributes of fundraising through coin offering. Financing. Oh. Financing through coin offering refers to financing bodies raising virtual currencies such as Bitcoin or Ethereum from investors through illegal sales and circulation of cryptocurrency tokens. This is what I have been talking about for 3 years. Well, maybe not fully 3 years, but unfortunately, Ethereum is one of these illegal ICOs that did it through raising Bitcoin by illegal means that I have been talking about for years. These ICOs are no different than Ethereum. It's unfortunate that Ethereum is classified in the same breath as Bitcoin. It shouldn't. Ethereum was an illegal fundraise. You can disagree with the law, but the law is on the books for a reason. Now, that is my opinion that it's an illegal fundraise. And if these other ICOs are deemed illegal, then Ethereum should be as well. Bitcoin, however, is a completely different animal. Bitcoin was proof of work. Bitcoin did not have a couple of guys on TV saying, give us money, we'll give you a token. That's not how Bitcoin was created, but that's how Ethereum was created. For more on why Ethereum is an unlicensed, unregistered, illegal security, please look at my crypto scam episode number 8, which talked about this in detail with a securities lawyer. Okay, this is why I was never a fan of Ethereum, and that's why I never made a single dollar from Ethereum, and I don't feel bad about it. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it exactly the same way. I saw Ethereum for what it was. All right, next. No organization or individual shall engage in illegal fundraising through coin offering. This is what China is doing. And if you ask me, this is the right thing to do because all of these ICOs are just printing their own money. I have a problem with this. To me, this is why all of the ICOs are scams. And again, the only ICO that doesn't fit this criteria that I've looked into so far up to this point is the BCAP token from Blockchain Capital, because they were raising that money from high net worth individuals anyway. And all they did was give you an ICO of a $1 investment in their actual VC fund. Okay. They were going to raise that 10 million anyway, but because they were raising 100 million, they reserved 10 million for the ICO. And that ICO is just another group of investors in their VC fund, okay? And they followed all of the legal rules and regulations, and we'll see what happens when they get put under the microscope. But they're pretty much as legal as it gets. They didn't just print money out of thin air. They gave you a kind of like an ICO receipt for your $1 investment in Blockchain Capital for Brock Pierce to invest as he sees fit. Okay, that's a credible company, and that's what it was. I haven't seen any other credible ICO. It doesn't matter if the name of the person selling you the bullshit of the ICO is credible. The question is there a credible company beneath it? Okay, we'll see what happens with Kick. But again, if Kick could raise real money, they wouldn't be doing it through ICO. So think about that. Okay. Next. So this is pretty much the statement. So one of two things happened, right? Either some publication in China that no one's ever heard of misinterpreted the news out of and they do mention exchanges here a little bit. Well, hold on a second here. Oh, sorry. Let me get back here. The last part is really good. Self-regulatory organizations shall exercise industry self-regulation. Okay, this is to you libertarians that keep telling me that the market can regulate itself. No, I've given you the benefit of the doubt for about 5 years, and all I see is you scamming more people than the traditional markets ever did. Okay, no, and this is what even the Chinese regulators are saying. To keep financial activities in order, all kinds of self-regulatory financial organizations shall interpret policy properly. urge members here, urge members to consciously resist illegal financing activities related to coin offering fundraising. This is what I've been doing. Me and like 5 other people. That's it. Everyone else is trying to sell you their ICO. Okay. The responsible thing to do is to explain why these ICOs are illegal fundraising. Okay, this is exactly what China's doing. I see nothing in this entire statement. I haven't read every sentence yet, but from what I've glanced at this, I couldn't agree more on the whole thing. And I think I put this in the description of my video. If not, let me just check real quick. I'm playing my own video. Is it here? No, it's not here. That's fake news. Okay, hold on. I'm putting it in the description right now. Oh yeah, I gotta do the timestamping and stuff. Okay, real news. Okay, there. And latest on Twitter. There. All right, safe changes. There you go. All right. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the price of Bitcoin. Let's talk about this latest panic and what it's done. Okay, so nothing on the weekly count has changed, right? We're still on a green 8, and I'm still waiting for a green 9. Now, I was hoping that the green 9 would take us to 6,000, but if fake news can drop the market, then, what can I do? Oh, man, I got grass cutting outside. Hold on, I got to close the windows and hold on. All right, maybe that's better. I hope that's better. I'll move the mic closer to me as well. Maybe it'll pick up more of me and less of the background noise. So I'm still waiting for my green 9. Now, when the green 9 comes, I was going to be a seller. So maybe I'll be a seller earlier, right? Maybe we're not going to breach 5,000 at this point. And I still think this is, again, this is no different than the other piece of news. Let's go straight to the daily chart, right? You still have your lows. This was panic news on the ICO, which is bullish for Bitcoin. This news shouldn't have happened, right? This is people in China panicking on fake news, and people got liquidated. I'm expecting this to go back up. There is no reason for me to be bearish Bitcoin. So right now, we had our 1 to 4 day correction and then higher. But if the price of Bitcoin falls below 4,000, then technicals will start to turn bearish. Right now, this day is not even over. We still have 4 hours left in this candle, and then we still have all day tomorrow for the news to be absorbed, okay? So it looks like there was huge selling in China that caused a lot of the momentum. Now, I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not a prophet. I read the technicals. And I can't control real news. I can't predict real news. I can't control real news. If you want me to predict fake news, I will just laugh at you, okay? I have no defense against fake news that can crash the market. And here's the thing though, right? Let's even assume the news was real. Let's assume the news was real. It doesn't matter. It just shows you how dependent we are, not only on exchanges, but specifically Chinese exchanges. That's not why Bitcoin exists. Bitcoin exists as a peer-to-peer value transfer. All exchanges in the world, if all exchanges in the world shut down, Bitcoin should still work, and it should still have a lot of value. It'll take some time to figure out what that value is through things like local Bitcoin and direct peer-to-peer selling, but it will get its value back, okay? Now, here's another piece of news that you may not realize unless I actually spell it out for you. For the last 6 to 12 months, most people have been complaining about all of this centralization in China. China has all the mining, China has all the chip manufacturing, China has all the exchanges and all the volume. Well, the government came in, cleaned up the volume, at least that bullshit went away. Don't you want Bitcoin to be banned in China? Haven't all you people been complaining that China has too much influence on Bitcoin? Don't you want I mean, like, of all the countries to ban Bitcoin, wouldn't you want that to be China? Because everyone keeps complaining about China. I personally don't have a big problem with it. I mean, I'm not happy that Jahan has a monopoly. There's nothing I can do about it, right? But if you saw today in Bitcoin this morning, I talked about a Japanese manufacturer that wants to start making 7 nanometer chips that are going to be more competitive than Bitmain and try to go after Bitmain and break up their monopoly on chip making, right? So wheels are turning. So I'm expecting this to bounce. I'm expecting this to be no different than this and this, okay? I'm expecting today or tomorrow gonna have one of these reversal candles, one of these hammers, or a doji for people to absorb this crazy news. Someone said some guy sold 20,000 Bitcoin and crashed the price. Sure. Hopefully that guy ain't coming back, because if he can be faked out so quickly, this is not the kind of big holder of Bitcoin that you want. All right. So that's about it. I am not panicked. My daily has only gone into neutral, assuming it closes like this, right? All we have to do is go back up. All we got to do is go back up to 4,300. All we got to do is go up $50, and this turns back into a green 3. And I'm still bullish on a daily time frame. If this closes on a red 1, my daily time frame goes bearish, but my weekly time frame, it's still bullish, but this week is over in a couple of days. And this might be time to take your profit. I was hoping that the 8 and the 9 would look like this 8 and this 9. But if this 8 is showing you weakness, then it's time to, be cautious a little bit. But the monthly is still okay. But of course, the monthly can give us a 9 down here, right? So it's possible that we've topped out for the year. I still think that this fake news is going to blow over real quick. And we'll be back. But of course, there could be more fake news and stuff, right? But I mean, I'm not panicking intermediate or long term yet. I was gonna be a little more panicky come a few weeks from now, but maybe it started early. We'll see what happens. Trading isn't easy, guys. That's what I keep telling you. Yep, it's a 3 on here. So we have a 3 on Bitfinex and we have a 1 on Stamp. So let this day finish. Let this day, it's fake news. I know it's fake news. How low can it go? Nobody knows, right? 4-hour chart just turned bearish. You have another piece of support. I mean, as long as we stay above these lows, there's nothing to worry about from a technical perspective. Here's the hourly chart. There was a 9 buy, but then the current hour is going down again. Again, people are just panicking. No one is really reading. And remember, it's the middle of the night for China. Some people just woke up and they're like, what the hell is going on? All right. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right. Here's Tone's travel schedule. I'm going to be in Geneva speaking September 11th. Oh man, all of these links are on the World Crypto Network today in Bitcoin. I don't really have them anywhere else, or just Google. Google Tone Vase Geneva. It's not hard to find these things, right? Here's the meetup in Zurich. Google Tone Vase Zurich. Okay, and that's the meetup on the 13th. Then I'm continuing in Zurich, and this is the event on the 14th of September, the following day, and then the day after that, I fly to Germany to speak at the Blockchain Hotel. I'll land middle of the day on the 15th. I'm speaking on the 16th, right after David Mondras. Okay, and after that, I'm off to Munich where I'll be speaking September 19th. There is a link for Milan. I'll be speaking in Milan September 29th. I don't have it up next time. And then I close my European trip in Prague at Hackers Congress. That's me right there. Man, that picture is going to be infamous one day. Adam Back's going to speak, and I heard Peter Todd is going to speak. Jeffrey Tucker is going to be there. There he is. And Amir Taki, probably someone I'm looking forward to meeting. Okay, so, oh man, I'm already half an hour in. Okay, so this is normally where I do Q&A, but today is going to be a little bit different, guys. Today's Q&A is a little bit different. And this is another reason why I wanted to do this video today before I leave, okay? As you know, Tone Vase offers a consulting service. My consulting service is you are the client, you are the boss. I don't teach you how to buy and when to buy and sell. I either teach you how you can become a better trader. We can talk about economics, or we can talk about your altcoins. If somebody wants to review a white paper of their ICO, thank God no one's taken me up on that offer yet, but the price is the same. It's 0.1 Bitcoins per hour, okay? And the consulting request that came in yesterday is basically a list of 8 questions that a person would like me to answer them publicly during a Q&A session. So these are going to be the questions today, and if I get these done in 30 minutes, I know I really should be giving an hour. So it'll be up to the person. If I only spend half an hour answering the questions that have I fulfilled the okay, let me stop screen share here. If I only spend 30 minutes answering the questions, that I fulfilled my requirement here. So let's see. Let's get into these questions. If Bitcoin is a success over the next 5 years, what role do you think Bitcoin will play in the world? So if Bitcoin is a success in the next 5 years, I see major law changes around money laundering laws in the world. Like, I think Bitcoin is going to be a serious problem for a lot of governments. Okay. Hold on one second. Okay. So 5 years from now, what do I think will happen? Well, I think we will have Lightning. I think we will have Lightning. I think we will have more besides Lightning. I think we'll have more fungibility, easier ways to stay anonymous, and I think everything around money will change. I think people would have more control of their money, and that's really what I see. I don't see these ICOs changing the world. You can easily put laws on the ICOs. I don't see Ethereum lasting another 5 years. I mean, I see Bitcoin as being that money. People may be buying it for their cups of coffee. Hopefully, I mean, they shouldn't have to. There would be other local money, right? Like, governments will still have their own money. I think Bitcoin can have a huge role in putting responsibilities on government. Maybe some, maybe some politician will get elected that wants to put government revenue on through the blockchain, so that through Bitcoin, so that it's visible and stuff like that. All right, next. Are you bullish on it for being more than a store of value, Or do you believe being a store of value is sufficient to make Bitcoin mainstream? I think being a store of value is sufficient enough to make Bitcoin mainstream. But I do believe that it can be more than a store of value. I think a store of value is just more important than a medium of exchange at the moment, because it's a store of value that is unconfiscatable. The world has never had a store of value that is unconfiscatable before. The world has never had permissionless value transfer, and the permissionless part is more important. As long as um, those attributes of Bitcoin remain intact, it can then slowly become, um, you know, a better medium of exchange, right? Um, so I do think that Bitcoin can be more than a store of value. It's just not as important at the moment. All right, next. If you believe it can be more than a store of value, what if its attributes, well, what attribute excites you the most? Well, if it's more than a store of value, well, it already is, right? It's already more than a store of value. It's already permissionless value transfer. Just because some people are too cheap to pay a couple of dollars for the permissionless value transfer property doesn't mean that the property doesn't exist. Okay. So so it's already way more than a store of value. Now, what you're talking about is micropayments. I'm not as excited for micropayments as some people are, but I believe that they're coming and they will be useful. It's just, like unconfiscatable store of value is most important to me. Permissionless value transfer, second most important to me. Everything else is a distant second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And on that list is micropayments. We'll get there. We'll get there, guys. All right, next. Most people have no clue of the properties that make Bitcoin valuable. Furthermore, most people don't even know how to use it. True. How do we overcome ease of use, and who in the space is most likely to solve this puzzle? Okay, that's a very complicated question at the end. Okay, so the two most important properties of Bitcoin is the fact that it's an unconfiscatable store of value, and that it's permissionless value transfer. Those are its most important properties. Most people do not use Bitcoin correctly, in my opinion, and most people barely know how to use Bitcoin at all. If you're letting somebody else hold your Bitcoin, you are not using your Bitcoin correctly. Okay, you can use it. That's fine. You're helping drive the price up, but you're also going to help drive the price down when that Bitcoin becomes confiscatable by governments. Okay, all of the Bitcoin held by Coinbase is confiscatable. Very different than the Bitcoin you hold yourself, because no one has to know you're holding it. But the US government knows how much Bitcoin Coinbase is holding for you. So that Bitcoin is confiscatable. All the government has to do is call Coinbase and say, hey, you're holding toned vase coins. We don't like toned vase. How about you just give them to us and we let you stay in business? That is totally possible and totally legal. You may disagree with it, but it's currently legal. Okay. All right. Let's. So those are the most important properties. Now, the ease of use. I mean, I personally think that I really like Coinbase. Airbit's wallet. So that's what I kind of like to use. So to me, Airbit's wallet is fairly easy to use. But sure, one day it'll be easier. I mean, one day we'll use Bitcoin the way you use the Octopus card in Hong Kong. For me, the easiest payment system is the Hong Kong Octopus card. I absolutely love it. And if Bitcoin can become as good as the Hong Kong's centralized Octopus card, that would be absolutely amazing. Okay, so who's going to solve that problem? Someone with a lot of money and someone that really cares about Bitcoin. Okay, that's who's going to solve that problem. It's not going to be somebody that's looking for a crazy amount of profit. Is anyone working on it? Again, like I really like Airbits, and let's see what they can do. But I'm still not sure exactly how they're making money. But I hope they stay in business for a long time because I really like using them. If so, do you have any details or proposed solutions? I don't. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to think about any solutions. I try, and I'm not an advisor to any companies. I don't want to be an advisor to any companies. I just like doing this. So, all right, let's move on. Mainstream media covers Bitcoin price only for the most part and treats it like it is a science project rather than a sound currency. Although institutional investors will eventually make the plunge due to necessity, educating mainstream folks on its attributes would accelerate Bitcoin's presence, at least as a store of value. How do you get real experts to speak on Bitcoin's behalf with major news outlets? This is very, very difficult, and I'll tell you why it's difficult. Experts and important people are very busy. Very busy. I mean, I am very busy, and my only job is to try to understand Bitcoin. It's very difficult to get, let's say, an expert in the traditional markets who is very, very busy to even look at Bitcoin to actually dive deep and understand Bitcoin. It's just hard. It's just hard. Okay. There is nothing you can do about this. You just have to live with it. Hopefully, people like me will start making it on TV to the mainstream media to better explain it to the people. Andreas Antonopoulos is on mainstream media a lot. Andreas Antonopoulos is a good person to be on TV talking about crypto. Vitalik Buterin is a terrible person to be on TV talking about Bitcoin because he doesn't understand what the hell he's doing, in my opinion. Okay. So there are good people that the media can reach out to, but there's very few of them that are popular enough for them to do so. They prefer to go and ask, Warren Buffett about Bitcoin, which is a very silly thing to do. They would go and ask like a Nobel Prize winning economist that won the Nobel Prize 20 years ago. And that economist, I mean, he knows how to use email, he knows how to use computers, but he doesn't understand the technological innovation in Bitcoin, which is the proof of work mining system. If you don't understand that proof of work mining is the actual innovation here, then you don't understand Bitcoin. You don't understand. The word cryptocurrency is kind of very general. The dollar could be a cryptocurrency. All you have to do is put encryption on it. Like the word cryptocurrency is very vague, but to me, a blockchain is proof of work. And the most useful blockchain we have is Bitcoin. Okay. So it's very hard to get to the mainstream media. And you know what? To be honest, I'm too busy to reach out to some of these mainstream media people, right? Like there was lots of mainstream media podcasters, lots of mainstream media shows. And, it takes time to constantly email them, show them your work. Like I don't have like a dedicated person trying to sell me to Bloomberg that I am the expert, right? I don't have that. Like I don't have time to email like all the important people at Bloomberg. And because the probability of me actually getting on Bloomberg after spending an entire week nothing but emailing Bloomberg is still pretty small. So that's not the time I want to spend. I'd rather, make some money, take on a few consulting clients, do more videos. There's only so much time a person can do. All right, let's move on. When, who, and for what reason do you think major US companies will start mining Bitcoin? All right, so I've addressed this question before. So I think that major US companies will start mining Bitcoin. When Bitcoin becomes part of their business, and they will consider mining Bitcoin an expense. So the example that I like to give are like Amazon and Netflix, right? So let's use Netflix, right? So let's say Netflix decides to enter the continent of Africa, and they can't do it with credit cards. So um, if Netflix goes into Africa and a QR code pops up on the screen for people to buy a movie or buy a show, people would pay in Bitcoin. And let's say Netflix decided not to immediately sell the Bitcoin, but as a company looking, to not wanting to be Blockbuster. Netflix did something to Blockbuster. Netflix might say, hey, we don't want someone else to come in and try to do to us what we did to Blockbuster. So what if we keep some revenue in Bitcoin after collecting it from the continent of Africa? Now Netflix becomes invested in Bitcoin, and it's to Netflix advantage to make sure Bitcoin stays as decentralized and as possible and as secure as possible. So there could, and if revenue from the continent of Africa is high enough to justify the expense, let's say in 1 year they made an extra 50 or $100 million in profit just by accepting Bitcoin. They can now spend 20 or 30 million of that as an expense on Bitcoin mining in order to get in the game and keep Bitcoin decentralized and keeping this permissionless store of value. So that's my example of how a big company can get in. On the mining front, we're already seeing companies trying to compete in building chips. Some company in Japan is doing it, and maybe AMD is going to do it. Maybe NVIDIA is going to do it. So let's see if the chip makers get in, because people love buying those shovels in order to, dig for gold. All right, let's move on. We're halfway done. That was question number 4. Let's go to question number 5. I assume miners take money by being awarded Bitcoin for processing transactions, in addition to receiving transaction fees. Why do miners mine empty blocks? Okay, and are they still being awarded Bitcoin for the empty blocks? Yes, miners are awarded Bitcoin for the empty blocks. This is why they mine empty blocks. This has been explained on some of our shows, but I'll do it again. So what happens is when a miner mines a block, the miner knows that the block is legit because they mined it. But the rest of the world doesn't know that the block is legit. So once a miner mines a block, they have to propagate this block throughout the entire world. And other miners have to validate that this block is valid and the transactions in that block aren't being double spent and all this stuff, right? So there's all this work that goes on after a block gets mined. And on average, that takes about 15 to 30 seconds to review the work that a previous miner has done. Now, what happens during that time? Well, the miner that mined the block isn't going to just sit there twiddling their thumbs. They're going to immediately start looking for the following block. The problem happens when the same miner finds another block after the world haven't confirmed their prior block yet, okay? They can't stick any transactions into the following block because their previous transactions haven't been confirmed. Well, actually, if the same exact miner mines another block, they actually could stick transactions into the block because they know what went into the previous block, but that next block might get rejected. So to play it safe, they keep that block empty and keep the mining reward once that block number 1 got approved by the rest of the world. Now, what happens is other miners are very greedy. And instead of helping to validate that miner's block to make sure it's legit, they immediately assume that that miner did not cheat and they also start mining the following block. So you see the problem here, right? If not a single miner wants to take the effort of 15 to 30 seconds of proving what that first miner did, then no other transaction would probably ever get mined. Okay. Now we have miners like Bitfury that have publicly stated they will never mine an empty block, and they would always validate other miners' blocks. But we have miners in China that don't want to do any work and they just want to collect money. Okay. But if this becomes a big problem, Bitcoin becomes totally centralized and it's not going to work. The other issue is with big blocks. If the blocks are bigger, then it takes longer to move those blocks around the world. So this gives the biggest miner an advantage of mining consecutive blocks and mining empty blocks. Like even if the same miner didn't mine an empty block in the next 30 seconds, that miner still has a bit of almost a better chance of finding the block because they had a 15 to 30 second head start. Now, what happens if the blocks are 32 megabytes? And Bitfury wrote a paper about this. If the blocks are 32 megabytes, now it takes way longer to validate the block. And the big miner that just mined the block has a giant advantage of mining the following block. And that's how you get mining centralization where all you have is one miner. This is absolutely terrible. But that's why we have empty blocks, okay? Now, question 5 goes on and says, if Bitcoin were to remain solely a store of value, with few transactions keep taking place, are we at risk of losing miners due to profitability issues? Probably, but I don't think that's going to happen because Bitcoin is slowly becoming more and more popular and people are doing more and more transactions. Oh, and by the way, one day there will be more profit in processing transactions than from the block reward, in which case there should be no more empty blocks. But yeah, theoretically, it's possible if no one is using Bitcoin and it's a store of value. But it's not a very good store of value if nobody uses it, right? Like you really want a balance. You want a balance. You want it to be the majority store of value, but you want it to have a very big payment presence so that it's big enough for miners to do what needs to be done and for that store of value to be more useless. I mean, nobody cares about the store of value if no one really wants it, right? Like for example, I have a Cassatius coin. I have one of the original Cassatius coins, right? I have the Error coin. At one point, I was trying to sell it for 5 Bitcoin because that's what it's worth. It has 1 Bitcoin on it. It's the Error coin. It's the first batch of Cassatius coins ever created. I would love to sell it for 5 Bitcoin, but right now, no one would give me 5 Bitcoin for it. So it's the store of value that coin had. That coin was worth almost 10 Bitcoin when the price of Bitcoin fell to $150 a few years ago. But now that the price of Bitcoin went up, it's hard to find a buyer willing to pay 5 Bitcoin, which is probably what it's worth. But is it worth that if no one wants to buy it, right? Like if no one's using Bitcoin, it's not going to be a great store of value. But if everyone is using Bitcoin, then it's a hot potato. Then it's a terrible store of value, right? So we'll see what happens. You really want this dynamic. All right, question number 6. And I am going through this kind of fast. I only have 10 more minutes because I do have to catch a flight. So I'm not going to get to any other questions besides these. Can you discuss Charlie Lee's theory that Litecoin could be the source of payment processing and Bitcoin the store of value? As Bitcoin price rises, transaction fees could make payment processing cost prohibitive. I could be wrong here, but I do not fully agree with Charlie Lee that Litecoin is the silver to Bitcoin's gold, and that Bitcoin is not enough to process all of the world's transactions. I think that with second layer solutions, Bitcoin will one day become the global. Bitcoin will scale one day to actually take care of all of the world's transactions. I believe that this is possible. because I believe this is possible for Bitcoin, I don't see a huge need for Litecoin in the very distant future. Okay. In addition, Litecoin is a direct competitor to Bitcoin, even with a different mining algorithm. They are still competing for the same electricity. They are still competing for the same investment in hardware infrastructure, research and development on mining. Okay. They're still direct competitors with each other. So I think in the long term, Litecoin will not be necessary. It'll only be around as a test net, and no one would trust it as a store of value. So I don't know what the dollar value of Litecoin would be, but it will be a tiny, tiny fraction of a Bitcoin value. Okay. I think that in about 3 years, we'll all be talking about Bitcoin in bits. Okay. Right now, 1 bit is less than a penny. Eventually, 1 bit would be more than a penny. One day, 1 bit might be $1. When 1 bit is $1, that means that 1 Bitcoin is $1,000,000, and no one is going to talk about. Everyone's going to talk about Bitcoin, the innovation, Bitcoin, the blockchain, but they're not going to talk about Bitcoin as value. They're going to talk about bits as value. And then 1 bit will be a penny and 2 pennies and 3 pennies, and it will slowly go up. And then we'll be measuring all of these things like Litecoin and Monero. And if I doubt Ethereum will exist in the future, but let's say it is, we'll be comparing all those things to bits. We're not even going to be comparing it to Bitcoin. So Litecoin's dollar value will be just a mere tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of a Bitcoin. I mean, that's how I see the future. But hey, this is why they call me the biggest Bitcoin maximalist. And people think that because I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, I think everything else is either stupid or a scam. And it's actually the other way around. I don't see any innovation. I don't see any usefulness. I don't see much of anything anywhere else. And that's why I like Bitcoin. And that's why I got the nickname Bitcoin maximalist. It's really the other way around, guys. All right, 2 questions to go. With Bitcoin having a limited supply of 21 million coins and increasing in price at a very fast rate, if Bitcoin were ever to combine the major currency in... Okay, sorry. I've been speaking too fast. Let me read the question to myself first, and I'll read it out loud. Okay, so the question is, there's only 21 million Bitcoins, and what if the value of a Bitcoin grows a lot? I envision a scenario. Well, I don't, but like the question says, like, do you envision a scenario where a Satoshi is not enough for some transactions? It's possible. Okay, here's the thing. That's not the problem. That's really not the problem, right? So there's a bigger problem. So if a Satoshi starts to be very valuable, all you got to do is change probably 1 or 2 parameters in the Bitcoin code, and 1 Bitcoin is divisible even further, right? Like, that's just an arbitrary number that was selected. 1 Bitcoin is divisible by 100,000. That's just an arbitrary number. You can change that to 100 million. That's really not the problem, right? You can make units smaller than Satoshi. I'm not sure what you're going to name them. You're going to name them, sub Satoshi, micro Satoshi, mini Satoshi, micro Satoshi. Well, like, people will come up with other names, right? That's not the problem. The problem is the mining fee is calculated in Satoshis per byte. So you have to understand that if Bitcoin doubles again, your mining fee doubles, because mining fee is calculated in Satoshis per byte. All of this FUD over Bitcoin is too expensive to send, all of these guys were FUDding like there's an easy solution. It's not an easy solution, because your mining fee is always calculated in Satoshis per byte, and your transaction takes up X number of bytes. So as each Satoshi gets more and more expensive, your transaction fee gets more and more expensive because of the calculation. And that may be very difficult to change in the code because the miners will object to lowering the transaction fee denomination of how it's calculated. So that is the bigger problem to think about in the future. Okay, so solutions. I don't have Lightning, right? This is another reason why all these miners are against segregated witness, because they don't want second layer solutions, because second layer solutions can make the transaction fees almost free, but the on-chain transaction fees, they're still in Satoshi per byte. All right, the question goes on. Could something like a stock split occur? Well, that's the thing. It doesn't need to be a stock split, right? You can just further divide a Bitcoin. Okay, you can just further divide it. That should have plenty of consensus. I don't understand even the big blockers, if they still exist. If one Satoshi is very expensive, I don't even think I could be wrong, but I'm not expecting much opposition to it. I'll go back to the price, guys, right after. I'll go back to the price right after I'm done with questions. I don't think there will be too many people blocking to subdivide a Bitcoin even further if a Bitcoin is so valuable. All right, next. Yeah, no, I'm not expecting 42 million Bitcoins. You're just gonna subdivide it further. Yeah, that would absolutely damage Bitcoin. But here's a little but coming. I'm not going to get into it. I've made this devil's advocate before. Okay, look, my view on it is the following. Oh man, I don't know if I have time to really get into it, but I'll get into it. Maybe I'll do I'm not saying I'm for this. I'm just saying I understand. Here's what I understand. When Satoshi came up with a 21 million limit, he really wanted there to be 21 million Bitcoin in circulation. I'm sure even Satoshi wasn't happy with people burning Bitcoin, right? Like, I'm not happy that Satoshi's Bitcoin is burned, right? Like we know Bitcoin has been lost. We know Bitcoin is gone, right? So I would not complain if someone 20 years from now wrote a math formula that estimated, you know what, these Bitcoin haven't moved in 30 years. The chances of them moving is very, very small. Let's slowly add more Bitcoin to mining. I don't know, maybe like 1/10 of a Bitcoin to mining 20 years from now, in order to bring more Bitcoin into circulation beyond 21 million. But the math formula continuously estimates how much Bitcoin has been destroyed. So you're not really increasing the 21 million. You're increasing, there will be more than 21 million Bitcoin, but realistically, there will never be more than 21 million in circulation. So I'm not saying I am for this, but I'm saying this is something that may be discussed in 10 to 20 years from now, because it's not all that bad of an idea, right? It has to be mathematically done so that it can't be abused. But again, I'm not saying I'm for this. Don't call me a Keynesian quite yet. I'm not saying I'm for this, but I'm saying I understand. Basically, if Picasso made 9 paintings, he kept one of them and put the other 9 on the Titanic, and those 9 paintings sank to the bottom of the ocean. That's kind of silly for him not to make 9 more paintings, to make sure there are 10 paintings in circulation. So that is the best analogy I have for that. Okay. All right. And final question. Other than putting out the fires with Bitcoin Cash and SegWit2x, what are the software guys building that excites you most for the future of Bitcoin? Well, those two things, right? Lightning to give us off-chain scaling, and things like Mimblewimble and confidential transactions to give more fungibility to Bitcoin and give us more privacy. I mean, those are the two things that I'm really looking for. All right, let's go back to screen share. Let's do a quick look at price. Those were all the questions. Someone reached out to me as a consulting session to answer those questions, and I did. So let me just glance at price real quick, and then I have to, pack for the airport. I am flying to Europe tonight. Yeah, well, you guys should all know my schedule by now. I've talked about it enough. Here's the daily chart. Again, sometime over the next 24 hours, I'm looking for this thing to bounce. It was fake news. Here's the Chinese announcement on why they're banning ICOs. I agree 100%. Hey, thank you for your donation, The Bad Virus. I see it come through the chat just now. I have not had time to get a Monero address. I know people have been asking me. Here's the FUD news that dropped the market. China has not banned Chinese exchanges. They probably banned ICOs on Chinese exchanges, which is in line with their statement. Here's the 4-hour chart. We do have a reversal candle at the moving average. Look, no indicator can predict news, especially fake news. So I don't know. This is a doji to me. It's a 4-hour doji, not as important. I would wait. I would wait it out. This is why I'm a long-term holder and not a short-term trader. If you're a short-term trader, you should be out. If you want to risk the short, it's on you. I would just wait for a better opportunity to buy. But your buy time is limited. Next week, I was going to call for a top anyway. So let's see where next week takes us. Okay. That's about it, guys. All right. I'm going to go back to me, say goodbye. Next time you see me on video, it'll be from some European country. Thank you very much for tuning in. And I got to get to packing. Talk to you all later.